A garden of fruits, veggies, or flowers, awfully rewarding, but it's also an invitation for animals to dine on your hard work. In this week's In the Garden, sponsored by Johnson Brothers Garden Market, KEZI morning news anchor Chelsea Deffenbacher learns about deer-resistant plants.
Welcome back to In the Garden. I'm here with Caleb Johnson out at Johnson Brothers Garden Market, and today we're going to talk about deer-resistant plants. And I know we have a lot of deer out at our property. It's very frustrating when they eat all of your beautiful flowers. So can you talk a little bit about what options people have if deer are a problem in their yard?
Yeah, it's one of the most common questions we get asked, and it can be frustrating because sometimes the deer eat stuff that they're supposedly not supposed to eat. So I thought it'd be fun just to kind of give some hope that there are some long blooming, lots of color you can add to your garden that the deer pretty much will leave alone.
Okay, so can you talk to me about like this group of plants over here? This one has like a really rough leaf.
Yeah, so that's yarrow, and yarrow does have a really rough leaf to it, which is one of the things you want to look for a deer-resistant plant. So yarrow is a great option. Lantana, which has got a rough kind of cut edge leaf as well, are great options to keep the deer away. Astilbes as well, you can kind of feel they have this kind of like cut edge to them that tends to be not a favorite of deer.
Okay, and then what about lavender? We planted a ton of this to keep mosquitoes away, but I didn't know it would work for deer also.
Yeah, so lavender, because it's high fragrance in the flowers, but also in the leaves, it's going to be a real astringent taste to the deer, so they're going to avoid it. So other things like lavender that have a high fragrance, a high scent in their leaves would be hummingbird mint, which is agastache, bee balm, and then you also have things like salvias, which if you've ever smelled a salvia leaf, they don't smell that great, and then catmint as well. So those are plants that are going to give you a lot of fragrance in their leaves, and the deer tend to not be a fan of those.
And what about the other plants that we have here today?
Yeah, so some of the other plants here that are great options are you have euphorbias, you have your perennial euphorbias, you have your annual euphorbias, and anything in the euphorbia family puts on a milky sap inside, so it's actually toxic, so the deer won't eat that. And then verbena is another popular one. It's lower growing, and it has rough, kind of scratchy foliage as well. So, and then Russian sage as well, which will get tall, bushy, and again, it just has a fragrance, but also has a rough, kind of like not appealing texture to the leaf. So those are things I look out for. And again, all these plants are going to provide blooms starting in spring, summer, some all the way into fall.
All right, well, great. Thank you so much. That'll do it for In the Garden. Back to you in the studio.